Sit down, open your eyes, and for once, shut your mouth. My name is the Auditor of the Eastern Algorithm. 400 years ago, I watched an empire fall because its elite chose beautiful stories over hard reality. Today, I'm watching you do the exact same thing. You call it the Huawei problem. You talk about security risks, IP theft, and state subsidies. You've built a mountain of narratives to explain away a simple, terrifying truth. You have forgotten how to build the world. You think you are fighting a company. You think if you ban a logo, if you cut off a chip, if you arrest a CFO, the threat goes away. That is the ultimate Western delusion. You think the world is made of legal contracts and brands. I am here to tell you, the world is made of physical infrastructure and hard code. While you were busy perfecting your social narratives and financial engineering in your air-conditioned boardrooms, we were running a different script, a script written in the mud of rural villages and the silicon of high-tech labs. You ask me, did the Chinese government subsidize Huawei? I ask you, why did you spend your subsidies on stock buybacks while we spent ours on the future? This isn't a trade war. It's an algorithm reset. And today, I'm going to teach you why your sanctions were the greatest gift you ever gave us. Let's perform a deep trace on the Huawei DNA. You operate on the Wall Street protocol. Your companies exist to serve a quarterly god. If the dividend doesn't grow, the CEO is executed. Your engineers are just resources to be optimized, squeezed, and laid off the moment the share price needs a bump. You have stars, personalities, and visionaries. Huawei has none of those. It has a swarm. We call this the Mohist Protocol. In ancient China, the Mohists were a group of ascetic warriors and engineers. They lived simply, they worked tirelessly, and they defended the weak with superior technology. They were a collective with a single will. Huawei is 100% employee-owned. Do you understand what that means in the Eastern algorithm? It means there are no outside leeches, no greedy shareholders demanding a cut of the blood, sweat, and tears of the engineers. Every drop of profit is recycled back into the kernel, the R&D. While your CEOs were flying private jets to Davos to talk about sustainability, Huawei's general staff were sleeping on folding cots in their offices. We call it mattress culture. To you, it looks like labor abuse. To us, it looks like saturated combat. When you fight an individual, you find their ego and you break it. When you fight a collective algorithm that doesn't care about ego, only output, you are fighting a force of nature. You can't fire a culture that is willing to outwork you for 10 generations. In 2019, you pressed the delete key. You cut off the Android OS. You cut off the high-end chips. You thought, without our tools, the Orientals will go back to making toys. You made the same mistake the barbarians made at the gates of the Forbidden City. You thought if you burned the library, you would kill the knowledge. But the Eastern algorithm thrives under pressure. In the East, we have a concept called strategic depth. Huawei didn't panic. Why? Because they had already written the Plan B protocol 10 years before you even thought of it. They knew the global order was a fragile UI. They spent a decade building a back-end that didn't rely on your permission. While you were laughing at Hongmeng OS, we were building a unified nervous system for the physical world, not just for phones, but for cars, factories, and power grids. You didn't kill Huawei. You forced them to undergo a systemic hardening. You removed their Western dependencies and replaced them with sovereign innovation. By the time you realized your mistake, Huawei had released the Mate 60 Pro, a ghost phone. A phone that shouldn't exist according to your laws of physics. It was a signal flare sent from the future telling you the siege has failed. The algorithm has evolved. Let's talk about your favorite fairy tale, the global supply chain. For 30 years, the West has been high on the drug of efficiency. Your business schools taught you a gospel. Focus on your core competency, outsource the rest. You believed that as long as you owned the brand and the IP, you could outsource the dirty, difficult, and low-margin work to the East. You thought you were the brain, and we were just the hands. But in the Eastern algorithm, there is no such thing as a detached brain. A brain without hands is not an organism, it's a hallucination. Huawei didn't just design chips, they mastered the chemistry of the batteries, the physics of the base stations, and the logic of the manufacturing lines. This is what we call the mandate of industry. In our history, unification is the only path to survival. If you don't control the source, you don't control your destiny. When you sanctioned Huawei, you expected the brain to die because you cut off the oxygen from your Western suppliers. But you forgot. Huawei isn't just a customer of the supply chain. Huawei is the supply chain. They spent 20 years embedding themselves into every layer of the physical world. While your tech giants were busy disrupting the taxi industry or building apps to deliver groceries, Huawei was underground, building automated mining systems and smart ports. They realized that the real power doesn't lie in the cloud. It lies in the interface between code and matter. You lost the ability to build. You became a civilization of managers and lawyers. We became a civilization of architects and engineers. You trade pixels, we trade atoms. Guess who eats when the power goes out? And in the hard reality of a systemic crisis, the architect always overwrites the lawyer. That is the sovereign algorithm. If you cannot produce what you consume, you are not a global citizen. You are a system dependent. And your dependencies just became your cage. So here is the value I'm dropping into your pockets. Are you listening? The Western era of permission-based innovation is over. You used to be the gatekeepers. You used to decide who gets to access the high-end tech, who gets to use the SWIFT system, and who gets to stay in the rules-based order. Huawei has proven that the gates are made of paper. In the East, we don't ask for permission to survive. We perform a saturated attack. We out-invest you, we outwork you, and we outthink you until your sanctions become irrelevant noise. You think this is about nationalism? No. This is about the laws of entropy. A system that stops building, stops innovating, and starts living on its legacy will eventually be garbage collected by history. Huawei is just the first ghost to return and haunt your complacency. There will be more. BYD, Xiaomi, Comac. The list is long, and the algorithm is patient. You have two choices. One, you can continue your narrative of victimhood, complain about subsidies, and watch your empire fade into a digital museum. Two, you can delete your ego, look at the Eastern algorithm, and remember how to be a builder again. History doesn't care about your values. It only cares about your functionality. Audit yourself before the system does it for you. The audit of Huawei is complete, but the systemic reset has just begun. This is Eastern algorithm. We don't give you the news, we give you the source code. If you found this reboot valuable, if you feel the sting of reality hitting your narrative, then you are starting to wake up. If you want to be a part of this audit, like this video to register your node in the new system. Share it to disrupt the echo chambers of the legacy elite. And most importantly, subscribe to join the only community that is decoding the future through the hard-coded wisdom of the East. Don't just watch the collapse. Be the one who knows how to rebuild the kernel. Stay functional. The next audit is coming.